All right. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are going to be doing a live stream today, and we're really going to be focused on the holiday travel. So whether or not you're watching this stream live or if you're going to be watching it later on in the day, we're going to be really just sort of talking about just what the weather looks like going into Thursday and Friday. So in case you're watching this video rather late, so if you're not a part of the live stream and you're watching this and you have a question about your local area, if you're going to be out on the road here both for Thursday, Friday, even getting into tomorrow, go ahead and post those down in the comments below. And what I'll do is I will go ahead and answer those throughout the day and try to get to as many as possible. Really what this video is going to be doing is not just going over, again, the holiday travel sort of weather, but also just showing you sort of what's going on in the lower 48. So let's actually begin with that here. And I'm going to go ahead and hop into the stream and make sure that my comments are on, which they are. Okay, great. So let's show you exactly what's going on at the moment. And by the way, the length of this live stream today, I'm going to probably keep it at about 20 minutes because it was either this or a video, and I decided just for the sake of time, because I'm really crunched for time today, that I just want to do a little bit more of a live stream just to give you guys the opportunity to ask any questions. For those of you just kind of popping in, you can do that. And again, if you're watching this later on in the day, go ahead and post those comments down below. I will be checking back on this video, and I can type up a quick response for you and get the answers that you need. So anyway, let's take a look at sort of what's going on right now. And this is courtesy of College of DuPage. All the websites that I'm going over throughout this discussion, they are all available to you, right? This is pretty much public domain. The only other source that I'm going to show during this discussion is going to be from WeatherBELL. And that is a subscription-based service. You do have to pay money for that. But I will show you some of the products. I do have a commercial package, so I can kind of show you a few things. But let's start first with what's going on right now. Before we even dive into the models and try to diagnose what we think is going to happen for Wednesday and Thursday, let's take a look at what we have at the moment. So, like I said, this is courtesy of College of DuPage Meteorology, and this is showing our latest jet stream, right? So we have currently an area of ridging, an upper level ridge, also associated with high pressure out for our friends in the West Coast. We do currently have a snowpack that is out here towards the Central Rockies. We have seen some snowfall here over the last 24 to 48 hours, but for the most part, for the rest of the region here in the West Coast, looking rather dry as that ridge really begins to take shape here. And let me actually draw that a little bit clearer for you guys. So here's our upper level ridge out towards the West Coast. Meanwhile, we have this shortwave trough that's negatively tilted, continuing to move through the central and eastern half of the United States. And for those of you folks that were down here on the Gulf Coast, you guys were seeing some shower and thunderstorm activity, even along the lines of severe weather for our folks in Louisiana and Mississippi. Some of you this morning are waking up to some tornado touchdowns, as we did have quite a few reports of tornadoes in places like southern Mississippi and even back towards east central Louisiana. Well, that system is going to continue to move off to the east. And with this shortwave trough, we have this low pressure system. You can kind of make it out here right near northwest Indiana and west central Michigan. And that's actually our low pressure center. It's going to continue to move off to the east and is bringing about a lot of cloud cover for much of the eastern United States, from the Ohio Valley getting all the way back into the Northeast and New England. If we were to show you a radar as far as what the precipitation looks like, and you know what? I just lost connection here on COD. Let me see if I can reload this. Oh, it looks like COD got messed up. Let me see if I can work WeatherBELL, make sure my connection didn't die out. Okay, that's all right. Well, it looks like College of DuPage went down. So just to improv a bit, why don't we just use the GFS? So we're going to go to the GFS, pull back up the 500 millibar jet. And so here we go, right? So we have, again, our upper level ridge out towards the West Coast. Here's that shortwave trough feature with a low pressure out towards the southern half of Lake Michigan. And as I mentioned, that's going to continue to move off towards the east here. And that's going to bring additional shower and thunderstorm activity for places like the Tennessee Valley, getting all the way back towards even the Carolinas. And then we do expect to see some wintry precipitation eventually by the time we get to Tuesday night tonight into Wednesday morning for folks in Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire. More on that in just a second. Again, if you are just tuning in to the live stream, if you have any questions about your holiday travel going into both Thursday and Friday, go ahead and post those down in the comments below. And as I've said already, if you are going to be tuning into the stream later on today and are just watching the archive version of this, you can go ahead and ask your questions. Just post those in the comments as well, and I'll be sure to get to those by the end of the day today. Let's head on over to the GOES satellite. I think this will show us a little bit of a better rendition of our reflectivity. Let's speed that up a little bit here. And look at that, folks. I mean, over the last 24 to 48 hours, we've seen really this line of showers and thunderstorms continuing to push off towards the east. We also have additional stratiform precipitation up towards the Ohio Valley. Not expecting severe weather out of that, just mostly some steady rainfall. For our folks, like I mentioned already, for Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, could expect to see some wintry precipitation by the time we get to Tuesday night, Wednesday. Like I said, more on that in a moment. That's going to be as this system continues to move off towards the north. Now, this cold front that we've been tracking, that's going to bring additional rounds of showers and thunderstorms for folks in the panhandle going into the rest of today and into tonight. May see some severe weather. We will also have a chance of severe weather tomorrow for our folks along coastal Carolina. Right now, that's currently a marginal risk, as noted by the Storm Prediction Center, but there is the chance for some showers and thunderstorms going into the rest of both Tuesday night, so this evening, and then into Wednesday. So if you're going to be traveling, especially along the I-95 corridor, especially for folks that are going to be heading on up for Thanksgiving starting Wednesday, you want to be mindful of that. You're probably going to be running into some shower and thunderstorm activity, again, right along the I-95 corridor, and then all the way back down into Miami-Dade, Fort Lauderdale, could also see some shower and thunderstorm activity. Not sea breeze initiation, but actually cold front initiation here as that continues to push off towards the east. Now, for our friends in the lower Great Lakes, like I mentioned before, we are going to touch on the northeast New England here in a second. We have quite a bit to talk about there. But we have seen some continuous shower and even some levels of thunder around the lower Great Lakes from this morning. That's going to clear out, and we could expect to see even some snowfall along this area right near, say, the I-39 corridor that goes up through Janesville, eventually into Madison, Wisconsin. Not expecting a lot of significant impacts. And by the way, the snowfall we're talking about is really going to linger for the rest of today into tonight for our folks in south central Wisconsin, as well as central Wisconsin by Madison. Not expecting a lot of accumulation, but there are going to be a lot of people on the roadways. I've seen that firsthand for folks that are taking I-90 up to Wisconsin, going to be taking even eventually I-39. You're going to run into that snow by the time we get to this afternoon and evening. The problem is not the accumulations. It's not even the severity of the snowfall. What it really is a lot of people being on the roads, right? There are currently no winter weather advisories for you folks in southern Wisconsin, but keep in mind, that doesn't mean that you're out of the blue here. You're going to be having a lot of people out on the roads, and when you have snow, sometimes there's some idiots you run into. So please keep a safe distance away from other cars ahead of you while you're traveling up there, because we could have some disruptions once we get into that period. So I guess what we should do is let's sort of dive right into the models and show you sort of what I'm talking about here. And we'll pull up the NAM 3 kilometer. This is the North American model, and we'll show you just the precipitation output here. We won't go over totals quite yet, but I do want to show you sort of what I'm referring to here over the last 10 to 15 minutes. So here's that broad band of rain showers, right? So there's that cold front easily demarcated right around Mississippi, Alabama, extending all the way back towards the Tennessee Valley. That's going to continue to push off towards the east. Meanwhile, as we just mentioned, some snow showers beginning to emerge right near southern Wisconsin. Not expecting much in the way of significant accumulations, rather just some disruptions to travel for folks that are going up to Wisconsin early on for Thanksgiving. You see those showers and storms continuing to move off to the east, and the additional snowfall is really going to emerge for our friends up here by Traverse City, Mackinac Island, and the UP of Michigan. So if you're up there, going to be traveling up near the UP of Michigan for this holiday season, especially around the Wednesday, Thursday time frame, you want to be mindful that as we get into the evening hours especially of Tuesday. We are going to see those snow showers really begin to emerge and take shape here. Meanwhile, we also have some snow showers and some snow banding activity into eastern Ontario. All right, we're going to see that also beginning to emerge beginning Tuesday afternoon into the evening. Watch what happens with this system as it moves eastward. All of that purple and pink you see towards the northeast New England, especially around upstate New York, is that wintry precipitation, right? We're talking about sleet. We're talking about even some spots of freezing rain just to the north of Albany, especially towards areas of Syracuse and, like I said, upstate New York near the international border of New York and Quebec. And that's going to be really the main event. And this takes us, by the way, into later on this evening. And I do have to correct myself. I mentioned that Tuesday evening would be the snowfall event for upstate Michigan. That's actually going to be later on this afternoon. So just a correction there. We're expecting impacts for snowfall for the UP of Michigan from Traverse City up through Mackinac to be, really Tuesday afternoon, this afternoon, and then actually lingering into this evening. The main impacts for this evening are actually going to be for folks in, say, upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, where we start to see those temperatures drop, and here comes the snowfall. Now, you notice that a large population hub, aka New York City, Philadelphia, the Carolinas, DC, Baltimore, we're seeing mostly rain out of this. Not expecting much in the way of wintry precipitation. And the reason being is because we actually have a lot of moist air advection and warm air advection due to that low-level jet that caused a lot of our severe weather yesterday for the Gulf. That's going to move into this area of the country, and that's actually going to allow for some warmer temperatures at the surface. Not expecting much in the way of wintry precipitation in those places like New York City, Hartford, Connecticut, even back into Philadelphia. But we are expecting to see some steady rainfall. So you also want to be careful on the roads, give some safe distance, especially if you're traveling along the I-95 corridor, even all the way back up into New York City. And all those interstates up there. Be mindful of that. There could be some sort of trouble to deal with that rainfall. The biggest concern, though, for the most disruptions will really be for folks, as I mentioned, in upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. This, by the way, will take us into Wednesday morning. For folks in Maine, your chance of snowfall will really be Wednesday morning, right around the 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern time frame. And as we mentioned, everybody else is mostly just getting rain. And then once we get to Thanksgiving, very dry for a lot of us. The only exception is going to be for areas in the northern Rockies. Could see a nice round of snowfall for some of our higher elevations, and that really lingers around. So if anything, the I-80 corridor, certainly want to be on the lookout for that. Could be dealing with some travel troubles, especially as we get into Thanksgiving afternoon and evening. Hey, I know a lot of us are going to be celebrating Thanksgiving with loved ones, and I wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving. We also have a lot of truckers out there that are working in logistics and transportation that are going to be working through this Thanksgiving. So any truckers out there, you certainly want to be mindful that we are going to be dealing with some snowfall right around the I-80 corridor of Wyoming, and with some pretty decent precipitation coming down from that snow. We'll take a look at that here in a moment, but at least for the rest of the country, we got some lake effect snow showers lingering around by the time we get to Thursday night. Once we get to Black Friday, could have those continuing, but for the most part, not expecting a lot of impacts. Just be mindful of some lake effect snow showers there. Again, not expecting much in the way of significant accumulation. Most of our precipitation is going to be pretty quiet for a lot of the country, exceptions being, as we just said, the eastern Great Lakes, some of the Gulf, as well as the northern Rockies. Let's take a look a little bit closer at the New England region. And like I said, those of you in the chat, post any questions if you have any. I'm looking at chat right now. So if you have any questions about your travel, go ahead and post those down in the comments below. So let's go over to the Northeast New England region now, and I'm going to show you a little bit more of a close-up as to what we're expecting here. And by the way, this is another situation where we're not seeing like a winter storm warning at all. As a matter of fact, the National Weather Service has not issued any sort of winter storm warnings. They have, however, issued winter weather advisories for portions of Vermont, New Hampshire, even getting back towards western Massachusetts. Take winter weather advisories seriously, guys. These certainly will produce impacts. I know a lot of folks are more in tune to winter storm warnings, but like I said, even under a winter weather advisory, you got a lot of people out on the roads because they're not thinking it's a big deal. And then once that snowfall and that wintry precipitation begins to fall, then you start to run into some issues. As a matter of fact, I would even make the argument that the most car accidents happen during winter weather advisories and not winter storm warnings, just based on the sheer fact that there's a lot of people out on the roadways. Anyhow, let's get to tonight. This is this evening. You see that darker purple? That's actually heavy freezing rain, right? This is freezing rain that falls, as well as sleet. I mean, depending on how heavy that is, not expecting a lot of freezing rain accumulations out of this. Remember, if you want nice freezing rain and ice accumulations, you don't want it to precipitate really heavy, because then it's just going to run off. So that sort of signals to me that we're not going to see much of that even accumulate. That also is because our ground temperatures around this area are still somewhat above freezing during this period. But once we get to this evening, that's when we start to deal with some of that wintry precipitation. So that snowfall really begins to emerge in Vermont and New Hampshire, especially as our temperatures fall into later on tonight, into tomorrow morning. So if you are going to be traveling late, I would strongly recommend you avoid that because you certainly will be running into some issues here for early on Wednesday morning, late tonight. Going to see some snowfall at times, even heavier in some of the higher elevations, and that's going to continue into Wednesday morning. By the time we do get to Wednesday morning, a lot of us will transition over to rain. You notice that we still see some of that wintry precipitation lingering around, and that's actually correlating with the higher elevations of Vermont and New Hampshire. So if you are going to be traveling around central Vermont, central New Hampshire, throughout this event, from Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning's commute, you certainly want to be mindful that those higher elevations will still likely be getting wintry precipitation, whereas some of the lower elevations are going to be dealing mostly with rain. Snowfall would then continue for our friends in Maine, seeing some of the heavier snowfall around central Maine by the time we get to Wednesday afternoon. You want to be mindful of that, especially for folks that are traveling up to Bangor and even to the international border right by Caribou, even by HIR or HUL station. You want to be mindful of that travel. So try to avoid travel if you can, or if you are going to be traveling into these regions, right? Upstate New York and the far northern portions of New England, just be cautious, right? Understand that there are going to be travel hazards with this winter weather that moves through. So please be careful of that, and be sure to just take extra precautions. Keep an car's length away while you're driving on some of these interstates. And we should be good to go. By the time we get to Thanksgiving and really Wednesday night, that's when things really start to clear out. Some wintry precipitation lingering around still. Again, higher elevation confined. But for the rest of us, it should be a lot quieter. Temperatures do cool down slightly, but not too bad. We're actually going to be hovering around the 40s, especially for folks along the coast there. So not going to be a really chilly Thanksgiving for you guys. It should actually be a relatively nice one, I would say. Let's actually go back now to one more region that I wanted to focus on, and that is the Northern Rockies. So we'll go over to the Rockies and show you some of that snowfall here. Same timing applies, except the only difference is we're going to be talking more about Wednesday night, not Wednesday morning, but Wednesday evening into Thursday morning, right when Thanksgiving ensues. And we got this nice disturbance that moves through, bringing a nice, really well-defined blanket of snowfall from east central Idaho all the way into North Platte, Nebraska. We'll go ahead and check the accumulations on this, and we'll also head on back to the northeast. I forgot to pull up the accumulations there. But again, impacts for this one along the I-80 corridor is what I'm particularly concerned about. And also, if you're going to be driving out there, be mindful that this snow is going to fall, and likely heavier at some of our higher elevations. So be very mindful of that. And we'll look here at the 10-to-1 ratio according to the NAM. And again, higher elevations are going to get the most snowfall out of this. We're talking about anywhere between, say, 8 to 10 inches of snowfall for you folks up in northern Wyoming and then south central Montana. And then also extending into east central Idaho. Could see some extended periods of snowfall as well. Finally, because I forgot, let's head on back here to the northeast in New England and show you some of those snowfall totals. And the models have been relatively sort of fluctuating around this, right? This is just the NAM, and the NAM is a little bit more bullish on snowfall totals at higher elevations. Same thing sort of applies for the Northern Rockies. We got to keep that in mind. But generally speaking, it wouldn't be out of the question to see some of our higher elevations getting, anywhere between, say, say 6+ inches of snowfall. and with everybody else mostly sitting around 3 to 6, right? Keep in mind, our ground temperatures are slightly below freezing, but not everywhere. So don't expect all of this to stick at the surface. We will have some sticking, some slick spots in the roadways. Expecting more of that sticking snow to really take place in the higher elevations of upstate New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire. So that being said, I don't see any questions at the moment. This was sort of our briefing here on the travel weather for Thanksgiving. So if you do have any questions, again, post those down in the comments below. I will be answering those beginning today and all throughout the day into tomorrow morning. We may do one last update tomorrow. I either will do a live stream or a video, but either one, we'll do one last update of some fashion. And then before then, I just want to wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving. Please drive safe if you're in any of these areas along the Northeast New England and even back towards Northern Rockies. It's going to be some kind of crazy travel, right? A lot of people on the roads, slick spots, could lead to some accidents. So just take your proper precautions, be safe, and I want to wish each and every one of you a happy Thanksgiving. Take care. Bye-bye.